Right. So today we're diving into some pretty big news in the NFL world. Zack Martin, the Dallas Cowboys star guard, he decided to hang up his cleats, retire. If you follow football, you know this is a big deal. The guy's an 11-season veteran, played his entire career with the Cowboys, and yeah, he's considered one of the best, if not the best, interior offensive lineman in NFL history. So big shoes to fill there. We're going to dig into this using some recent sports articles we found. We'll look at his Hall of Fame potential. You know, is he a lock? What this means for the Cowboys financially, because it's not going to be pretty. And of course, what it all means for their offensive line and moving forward. So if you enjoy these deep dives, you know the drill. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes to really get why this retirement is such a bombshell. Got to first lay out just how good Zack Martin has been throughout his career. I mean, we're talking 7-time first-team All-Pro. That's tied for the most among guards in NFL history ever. And he's achieved that while consistently going up against, the best of the best, the most fearsome defensive tackles a league has to offer. On top of that, he has a 9-time Pro Bowl selection. Basically a mainstay, a rock on that offensive line. For both the Tony Romo and the Dak Prescott eras, that kind of consistent dominance, it puts him right in the thick of the Hall of Fame conversation. He'll be eligible in 2030. And frankly, it's tough to imagine him not getting in at that point. I mean, 7 first-team All-Pro selections, that puts him right up there with legends like John Hanna and Randall McDaniel, both Hall of Famers, obviously. Only 4 offensive linemen in NFL history had more first-team All-Pro nuds and Martin. So yeah, you're talking about truly elite company there. But here's where things get really interesting, right? Why retire now, especially when he was coming off the contract holdout and was about to be a free agent for the first time in his career? I mean, the timing seems a bit odd, doesn't it? So let's rewind a bit. Martin was entering the last year of his contract. But before the 2023 season, he held out, looking for a better deal. And the Cowboys, knowing how crucial he was to their offense, they caved. They guaranteed him $36.85 million over the 2023-2024 seasons. Now, his retirement, it throws a massive wrench into the Cowboys' financial plans, finale it with $26.46 million in dead money, basically money that's still counting against their salary cap, even though Martin's on their own team. This dead money situation, it's fascinating because it creates this ripple effect across their entire salary cap. It makes you think, how will this impact their ability to sign free agents, extend key players in the future? It's a real headache for the front office. For those who might not be super familiar with how NFL contracts work, this dead money thing, it's basically the leftover guaranteed money that a team owes a player, even if they're not on the roster anymore. It usually happens when a contract is restructured or a player's released or retires before their contract is up. It's kind of like a financial hangover from past decisions. Interestingly, the Cowboys managed to avoid a similar cap crunch when they extended Dak Prescott's contract, which just goes to show how complex and delicate these negotiations can be. You'll be really careful with those long-term deals. Okay, so we talked about the money, the financial hit, but the bigger question, the one that keeps me up at night, what does Martin's retirement mean for the Cowboys on the field? This is where it gets really interesting, I think, because he was the last man standing, so to speak, the last remaining piece of that dominant offensive line from the Romo Prescott eras. Travis Frederick, he retired back in 2019, and Tyron Smith, he left in 2024. So with Martin gone, that's a massive hole to fill, especially when you consider how much the Cowboys struggled. To replace Smith and center Tyler Biadasz last year, it wasn't pretty, let's just say that. And Martin, he wasn't just some guy holding back the defense. He was a road grader, a force of nature. I still remember that play a few years back where he just plowed through 3 defenders, cleared a path wide open for Zeke to run for a touchdown. Textbook, just beautiful. That's the kind of impact he had on the Cowboys run game. And it wasn't just Ezekiel Elliott who got it. They had multiple running backs at that 1,000-yard season mark. During Martin's time there, I think DeMarco Murray, Tony Pollard, even Rico Dowdle had a 1,000-yard season. So he had these shoes to fill, no doubt. Now, the pressure is on Tyler Smith big time. They moved him to guard, and the plan was for him to eventually take over for Tyron Smith at left tackle. But now, he's got to step up even more, and quickly. The Cowboys' success in the next few seasons might hinge on his development. Right. So we talked about the financial hit, the impact on the Cowboys' offensive line. But what about Martin's decision itself? Why retire now, seemingly at the top of his game? It just doesn't seem to make sense at first glance. Well, it turns out that you hinted at the possibility of retiring in 2024. There were even some rumors floating around, but he was waiting for an ankle injury to heal before making a final decision. So maybe it wasn't as sudden as it seemed. Still, it's a pretty big decision, especially for a player who could have potentially made a lot more money if he hit free agency. I mean, he made a good amount during his career, for sure. We're talking $111.6 million, and exactly chump change. But still, walking away from even more potential earnings, when you're still playing at such a high level, it's a choice. This actually reminds me of Tyron Smith's situation, kind of similar. He also signed a long-term deal, ended up missing out on some bigger paydays because of it, His trend, players like Martin and Smith choosing something else over, maximizing their earnings, it's intriguing. It makes you think, is there a shift happening in the NFL? Are players starting to value, long-term health, family talent, more than ever before? Maybe the game's changing. Something to think about, that's for sure. Let's get back to Zack Martin, focus on his his legacy for a second. 7 first-team All-Pro selections? I mean, that's just incredible. Truly elite company. We're talking Hall of Fame material here. We already mentioned John Hannon and Randall McGain, both legends, but to really grasp how rare that is, you gotta zoom out a bit. Look at the bigger picture. There are only 4 offensive linemen in NFL history with more first-team All-Pro nods than Zack Martin, and only one of them, Anthony Munoz, started his career after the 1970 mergers. So, pretty exclusive club. We're talking about a guy who was consistently, year after year, one of the very best in the league, no doubt about it. Key piece to that dominant Cowboys team, 6 playoff appearances during his time, huge role in helping multiple running backs win rushing titles. DeMarco Murray, Ezekiel Elliott, list goes on. Hall of Famer, absolutely just a matter of time. But for the Cowboys, now they got to figure out how to replace him. And it's not just Martin. They've lost 3 cornerstone offensive linemen. In recent years, Travis Frederick, Tyron Smith, and now Zack Martin. That kind of experience, that talent, it's not easy to replicate. It's going to be a real challenge for them rebuilding that unit. Tyler Smith, he's the obvious candidate to step up right. Showed some real promise at guard, and the plan was for him to eventually take over for Tyron Smith at left tackle, but now the pressure's really on. He's got to deliver. And even then, it might not be enough. Remember, the Cowboys struggled last year replacing Tyron Smith and center Tyler Biada, so there are questions about their depth on the offensive line, their ability to adapt, how they address those questions. Well, it could make or break their season. So we've covered a lot of ground today. Zack Martin's incredible career. He's got a surprising retirement, the financial headache for the Cowboys, what it means for their offensive line, and even, that bigger question. Are we seeing a shift in player priorities in the NFL? Fascinating stuff. Here's one last thought, something to chew on. Think about what Zack Martin accomplished. Seriously, one of the best to ever play his position. Won championships, earned a ton of money, and did it all. With the same team for 11 seasons, that's loyalty. That's a legacy right there. It makes you wonder, what's next for him? Will he stay involved in football somehow? Coaching, maybe? Or will he pursue something completely different? It'll be interesting to see what he does with this next jacket, but one thing's for sure. He's earned the right to relax, enjoy his retirement, and do whatever he wants. He deserves it. That's it for today's deep dive into Zack Martin's retirement. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives. Get some really interesting stuff lined up, trust me. And of course, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about Martin's decision? Is this the start of a trend? Are we seeing a shift in player priorities in the NFL? Let's have that conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.